Okay guys, in this video I want to talk to you about the product research criteria that I have been using to find the products that I'm going to be launching in early 2020. Now I made a video on this topic about a year ago, so this is kind of updated advice based on my year of selling, and also it's a much shorter video. The last one went off for like half hour, so this one is just generally 2 slides of good content which hopefully will help you with your product research. So firstly, just some general thoughts from me about product research will maybe help you consider things in a slightly different light. So when you come to Amazon again, you'll see opportunities that you may have previously missed. So the first thing I want you to consider is that the right product research criteria varies from seller to seller. So what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. And lots of the stuff that's being preached on YouTube about specific figures, I would completely ignore, because it's all about finding criteria that works for you within your goals for the business and within the budgetary requirements for your business as well. So what I want you to do, I want you to think about the goals for your Amazon FBA business, both the short term and the long-term goals. At the start of any business, you could consider your exit strategy. So someone who's maybe looking for maybe a 1 or 2 year business opportunity versus someone who's looking at a 5 or 10 year business opportunity will probably be selecting very different products based on what they're trying to achieve. Also, how risk averse are you? You know, some people have maybe got 5 or 10k ready to burn, and if they lose it, it won't make much of an impact to their lives. Other people might be struggling to put together a couple of thousand, and it's really, really important that they don't lose that money. Again, that will impact the type of products that you choose and the strategy that you take with Amazon FBA. Also, obviously, what budget do you have? That's going to play a massive part of what products you choose. And consider how much you want to make from each product. At the moment, my general goal is to make about £1,000 per month from each product that I launch. And that can be achieved in many ways. I've got some examples there. If you're trying to make £1,000 a month, you can do that from selling 100 units at £10 profit per product, or 200 units at £5 profit, or 400 units at £2.50. So once you've got your your target profit margin, then you can decide on the type of unit quantities you want to achieve that with. I also want you to consider whether you can afford 2 batches of stock. So you'll need enough money for your initial batch that you send to Amazon, and then you'll probably be reordering your second batch before you get very much of that first batch of money back from Amazon at all. So it's very important you can afford 2 batches, otherwise what might happen is you sell through and then you've got to wait maybe 4 to 8 weeks or longer before you can reorder a second batch, get it back into stock, and probably have to relaunch your product. So try to budget for 2 batches of stock. And also, can you afford to launch the product? You might have found a product that's selling 1,000 units a month, which looks great on paper, but to sell 1,000 units per month, you've got to be selling maybe 30 to 40 products per day to get ranked. So have you got enough money to sustain not only the inventory, but also the marketing, PPC on Amazon, Facebook adverts, and other advertising methods to sustain sales of 30 to 40 units per day for a couple of weeks in order to get the organic ranks improved. So there's some general thoughts about the products, because depending on how you think about it will depend on the type of products that will appeal to you and the type of strategies that you'll want to implement. So this is my criteria, this is what you guys have been waiting for, and this is what I've used to find a couple of products I'm going to be launching in early 2020. And like I said on the previous slide, just because it's my criteria does not mean it'll work for you. This is just to give you a guide of what I'm doing, and then you use and adjust this to your own individual circumstances. So I'm looking for products that sell between 150 to 200 units per month as a minimum. That's what I'm aiming for with that product, with a £5 to £7 profit per unit, and which totals around £1,000 profit per month per product. So once you've launched a few products, it generates quite a nice income. Now I've prioritized these in order, so we've got seven pieces to look at, and for me the most important is sales and demand, closely followed by profitability, if not on par with profitability. They're both, without those 2 things, the rest are completely irrelevant. So sales and demand. Why am I looking at 150 to 200 units per month? That sounds quite low, maybe quite unambitious, considering how much obviously money I've generated from my first year of FBA. Well, I see it as a lower risk. I can diversify my investment across multiple products. So I've got less money tied up in individual products. So if something goes wrong, for example, my third product, when I decided it wasn't going to work out early this year, I still had 12 or 1,300 units in stock. Now with this strategy, if I have a product fail, probably at worst I might have 400 or 500 units of a product in stock. So it's a much lower risk with any product, and it diversifies my investment across multiple products. So that's one of the reasons it appeals to me. Secondly, as I mentioned previously, it's easy to launch. If you've only got to sustain to get ranked for a product that's selling 150 to 200 units per month, to get ranked, you've probably got to sell 5 or 6 units per day, which is quite easy with just a good Amazon PPC campaign, to be fair. Also, it attracts less attention and competition. Obviously, if all the teachings on YouTube that people are targeting kind of products selling upwards of 300 units per month, if you're quietly going about your business with products that are only selling 150 or 200 units, you should get a lot less competition and a lot less attention. Now, people ask me kind of what depth I like to see to the sales. Generally, I like to see around 10 sellers of comparable products, and I'll go on to that in a second, selling at or above my target, but not too high. So what do I mean by not too high? Well, if I want to sell 150 to 200 units per month, I don't want to enter into a niche where the top 10 sellers are selling 1,000 units per month, because I'm going to struggle to get ranked organically against them. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to see maybe a few sellers at the top selling 400, 500, 600 units, because then it allows some room for growth. But what I want to see is around 10 sellers on that first page selling around the type of figures that I want to be selling at, because then it shows it's possible to get ranked on that first page at that sales level. Also, by comparable products is what I mean is people talk about finding the top level keyword. And if we take my classic example of chopping boards, so if you were selling a wooden chopping board, you might think that the very top level search term is chopping board, and that is the top level search term, but it isn't the most relevant, in my opinion, for this process, because what it does is it brings in sales from other chopping boards which aren't direct competitors. So you'll see here a lot of the products in the background there are plastic chopping boards, and you can see this distorts the figures a little bit. So you've got some big sellers here at 8 and 600, and they're actually selling plastic chopping boards. So it's very important, and you can see here looking through there, if this was my criteria, this niche should actually appeal just purely looking at sales. You've got quite a few people selling at 200, and there's a couple selling bigger figures, which means there's room to grow. Whereas if I was just searching for wooden chopping boards, and we run this again, I've been using X-Ray a lot more than Jungle Scout lately. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that Jungle Scout seems to have got really slow since they made it subscription based. Anyway, I'm using X-Ray now for my sales figures. So you can see here, again, those big sellers are missing from when you just search for wooden chopping board. However, based on the sales I'd be targeting, again, this niche may appeal to me because there's enough sellers doing the type of figures that I want to do. And if I can sell 5 units a day for a couple of weeks, I'll probably end up somewhere on this first page. So that's why it's important to do the research based on directly comparable products. Just because you're searching for a particular search term does not mean all of the products are directly comparable to give you a good idea of what the sales actually are. So the next thing is profitability. And like I said, this is the most important thing with sales in mind. These top two, without all the other stuff, doesn't matter if these two don't add up. So profitability, I like to aim for a minimum of 30%. You'll probably end up below that, but by aiming for 30% plus, then once you take into account kind of refunds, PPC costs, stuff like that, then you'll end up somewhere hopefully between 20 and 30%, which I think is a good return on an FBA product. Price point, although I have had a product selling at a lower price point, now that I've become VAT registered, I'm looking for products at £20 plus. That doesn't mean you guys can't, especially if you're just starting out. Some of these products at £15 may appeal. You don't have the issue of VAT like I do. And like I say, with all of this criteria, this is what is right for me at the moment and the type of strategy that I want to implement. This may not be the right for you for what you want to achieve and how quick you want to achieve those goals. USP, what opportunities are there to add perceived value to the product? And it has to be perceived value. You might add something to a product that actually adds value, but unless a customer sees it as perceived value, then there's no point adding it. So make sure you add something to the product that adds perceived value to give you an opportunity to stand out against the other product. Seasonality. Avoid short seasons, obviously. Like I prefer to avoid all seasonality, but if you're going to take on a seasonal product, I would consider the longer seasons, for example, winter products or summer products, because then you've got kind of a 4 to 6 month selling window versus summer's kind of the shorter festival seasons where you might only have a few weeks of selling. And I also use X-Ray for checking seasonality. This is just a tip going off tangent here. To check seasonality using X-Ray, what I like to do is look for products that have got a high review count, because usually, unless they are doing lots of fake reviews, the high review count suggests they've been selling for a reasonable amount of time. So you should be able to get enough history to do the full check. So this one here's got 500 reviews. Click on the little graph, and this will generate a nice sales history. Set this back to all time or a year, but I usually go with all time. You can see here since January 2018, there's nothing in there that stands out as overly seasonal, but I would check 3 to 5 products at least that have been selling for this period of time to see how they've been selling over a longer period. Again, this is someone here who's been selling from start of 2018, and again, their sales are pretty good. So just based on those first two, there isn't anything that would concern me. Let's do one more. See how long these guys have been selling all time. So these guys have been selling, well, they look like they come into stock and then stop selling it for 10 months, but then have been selling for an entire year from October to October. And again, there isn't anything there that would overly concern me with regards to seasonality. So if you've got helium-10 and X-ray, definitely use this feature. It's really, really useful for checking seasonality. The next thing is size and weight. Now, obviously, I would prefer small and light products that you can air ship in. However, generally, I find as soon as I get up towards that £20 price point, most of the products that I come across are reasonably large or reasonably heavy, and I end up having to sea ship them anyway. Products that kind of are small and light but above £20 in value generally end up kind of in either the beauty categories or maybe electronics, and other type of products that come with their own restrictions and are more difficult to get listed with. So they're still great opportunities. You know, I know someone who does fantastically well in the electronics niche. However, for me, I like to keep things as simple as possible. So that's why I kind of will go with a larger product that I sea ship in categories that are easier to enter. And then finally, at the very bottom is reviews, and this will probably shock a few people, but I really don't pay much attention to reviews anymore. I've launched enough products now that to see how reviews really don't make a difference, providing you've got a good enough USP and you're not competing directly with someone, then the review count doesn't make that big of a difference. You know, I've had products with single figure reviews outselling products with 3-figure reviews. So that's why I don't pay much attention to reviews. Also, people are becoming much more skeptical about reviews and how genuine they are. The only thing I do generally avoid now is if there's a niche and lots of people have got a 5-star average, because if you start selling a product and you get hit with a negative review early on and end up with maybe a 4-star average, you probably will struggle then when everyone else has got 5 stars. But in terms of overall quantity of reviews, honestly, I don't pay much attention to review count anymore. So that's my criteria. That's what I've used. That's what I hope will work for me going into 2020 with my new products. Obviously, don't forget to check for other things such as trademarks, patents, and all of that kind of stuff. But that's the criteria I've been using. Hopefully, you'll find that useful and you can adapt that to your own requirements. If you aren't already a member, make sure you head over to FBAelite.com and sign up to the forums. I'm on there most days responding to questions. And if you haven't already, please like this video. It makes a huge difference, and subscribe to the channel.